Bruce, my boy, we have missed you. So Death Wish tells the story of an everyday man whose wife is murdered and daughter is critically injured in a home invasion gone wrong, and he decides to take on the criminal elements himself. What's up, guys? Probably about a week late with this review. So sorry, I had an exhausting week, but I could not go on living without talking about this movie because despite all the negative reviews out there, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil my shit right now. I loved this fucking movie. And I'll go ahead and admit this right away because I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of it in the comment section. No, I've never seen the original Death Wish. I've never seen any of the Death Wish movies. Maybe that makes me a cinematic idiot, who knows? But I never grew up with those movies. I've never had a chance to watch them. I've never owned any of them. Eventually I might watch them, but even from what I've heard from people who I trust opinions very strongly, those movies are very dated by now, so I don't even think I'd really enjoy them on the level that some of you guys who grew up with Death Wish is. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about this Death Wish.
Getting out, socializing?
Not so much.
Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Okay, I will.
So when I first heard about this movie, it was really jarring for me. Not only was the fact that Eli Roth was going to be directing a remake to Death Wish strange to me because he's always the splat stick torture porn guy, but you also had Bruce Willis being attached to this, which just felt like such a strange fit to me because this was thick in the time whenever Bruce Willis was letting everybody know that he's sick of being the action guy. He's sick of playing John McClane characters. He, does tons of Redbox movies. I call him the king of the Redbox for like the past 5 years. And he just doesn't try anymore. Unless the movie is by Rian Johnson, I think the past 7 or 8 movies that I've seen from Bruce Willis, he just does not give a fuck. He shows up, gets a paycheck, and goes the fuck home. So to hear that he was actually going to dip back into a movie that was clearly going to get a lot of controversy because it's one of those, untouchable classics, Death Wish, and you have a director like Eli Roth who's already very divisive, and you're gonna play a John McClane style character from what at least we can tell by the title Death Wish, it intrigued me as much as it confused me. But now the movie's here, I had the pleasure of checking this out with my dad, and I had one of the most fun times at the theaters that I've had in months. Starting right off with the positives, Bruce is back. This is the Bruce Willis that I love. Bruce Willis was my favorite actor of all time for the longest time until he kind of started going off the rails and not giving a shit anymore. But Die Hard is my favorite movie of all time. I love Bruce Willis whenever he is just that kick-ass Bruce Willis. Whenever he knows he can fuck people up, he's easily got some comedic talent and some good comedic timing. He's got that just kind of stone-faced stare where even Bruce Willis appearing to be kind of wooden is just Bruce Willis being a badass in most cases. And this character actually allows him to kind of have that subdued, kind of subtle, more human Bruce Willis that we see in movies like Sixth Sense, while also having the badass, kick-ass John McClane version of Bruce Willis. Now, he's not quite on John McClane's level, at least on Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 3, in this guy's opinion, but he's damn close to that style of Bruce Willis that all of us know, love, and have missed dearly.
You're Joey, right?
Yeah?
Well, kill my wife!
Who else was there? I don't know anything else.
You're not gonna kill me.
No, Jack is.
It also is a very good thing that he's surrounded by a great cast in this movie. Basically, every single character in this movie is a actor, a character actor, a TV actor that you recognize and you go, yes! I mean, you got Vincent D'Onofrio playing his brother who's kind of like a fuck up, but he's also really good-hearted and wants Bruce Willis to do the right thing whenever it comes down to kind of, some truths coming out about some shit that's been going on behind the scenes with bullets and blood and shit like that.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kersey, nothing yet.
So there's nothing that I can do? Is that what you're saying?
Can I have faith?
How'd faith work out for them?
You get Dean Norris, who played Hank in Breaking Bad, playing kind of the hard-nosed detective that's trying to take down this Grim Reaper killer, which is just perfect casting because I fucking love Breaking Bad. God, I love Breaking Bad. Elisabeth Shue played his wife for the first act of the movie, and it was nice seeing her. I've always loved Elisabeth Shue. She's kind of the cutie of the 80s. She's in this. She's good. And really that whole cast just allows this movie to be a very gritty and bloody and serious movie while having some levity to it and having some fun in the right spots. It's a cast that knows how to play serious and also have fun with its audience. And I gotta give huge props to a guy that I have criticized time and time and time and time and time and time and time again, and that is Eli Roth. I'm not a fan of Eli Roth's movies. I've given all of them a chance. I like elements of Cabin Fever, except for the humor. I used to like the Hostel movies. Now I just see them as just pure torture, and that's about all that's in those movies. I did not like Green Inferno. I'm just not a big fan of Eli Roth's style, to be honest with you. I never thought that this guy was going to really nail it in horror. I knew he had a great movie in him, but I didn't realize that it was going to have to take him switching genres to get that great movie out, because he did a kick-ass job directing this movie. It's intense. He brings some of that extreme gore to certain sequences, but it just adds to the fun of this movie. Once you're behind Bruce Willis and you want to see him fuck up every single criminal he comes across, and you get that Eli Roth exploitative gore, it's satisfying as fuck. And he did a great job at having really good comedic timing in this movie as well, which was the biggest thing I was worried about, because I heard a lot of people criticizing the comedy in this. There's some really good comedy sprinkled throughout. It's not a lot of it, but whenever it does, all it does is kind of give some levity to the film and let you just enjoy it for the ride that it is and enjoy these actors in these roles. And Eli Roth has never been a strong comedic director as far as I'm concerned. He did really well in this. And while I've already kind of hinted at it, I think that the action and the gore and the extremities that we go to in some of the sequences in this movie is just pure awesome. Like, there's certain sequences that's just classic Bruce Willis action movie with shootouts and stuff like that that's badass, is directed really well. Bruce Willis has just got it. He's always had it. He just doesn't give it sometimes. But even the sequences that I was already hinting at, whenever it's Bruce Willis and a guy that's about to have some extremely fucking painful times, those sequences are awesome. I mean, you got a scene whenever Bruce Willis walks up to a drug dealer in broad daylight, surrounded by all of his little posse and his homies, and he just shoots the fuck out of him in broad daylight and walks away like ain't nobody gonna do shit to him. That's classic Bruce Willis.
You got caught in some crossfire?
The ice cream man done it.
The ice cream man.
Can't walk to school if you don't work for him.
Who are you? Your last customer.
You get one that's already been shown in the trailer, so this is not a spoiler alert, but he kills a guy by dropping a fucking car on his head. Awesome! And another thing that I actually enjoyed, especially with kind of this modern day take that they're doing with this storyline, I actually liked how the news commentary and, you know, the citizens of Chicago's commentary and all the social interaction that's going on surrounding Bruce Willis's actions, I thought that added a nice little modern element to this story. They may have done a little bit too much of it, and I'll get into that, but I actually liked how somebody is going around murdering drug dealers and criminals and not giving a shit whether or not they get caught. I mean, modern days, if somebody was doing that, especially in a big city like Chicago, it would be like national news. It would be a social media frenzy. They would be trending videos. So all of the stuff that they incorporated into this to make it more modern feeling, to me, felt spot on.
Everybody's watching this viral video. Is this dude right for taking the law into his own hands?
Now, moving into my negatives, I have a couple of them. The one that I was just praising, the only negative that I have surrounding some of that social commentary and, you know, the newscast and everything, I feel like they put a little bit too much of it in the movie. If they had scaled it back a little bit, I think it would have been a lot more digestible for a lot of people, because that was one of the main complaints that I saw in everybody's reviews, was all of the newscasting stuff that they incorporated. If they had scaled it back, it would have been a little bit better. And honestly, the only other thing that I had a small gripe with, and this was a small gripe, it didn't ruin the movie by any means for me, was that there's certain aspects of this story, especially being in modern times, that it stretches your believability a lot. And it makes you kind of suspend your disbelief quite a bit, that Bruce Willis only has to wear a hoodie in a time when everybody's got camera phones, there's CCTV cameras on every fucking street corner, everywhere you look, and they can't figure out who the hell this guy is because there's a hoodie on him. You know, there's certain small elements of this that kind of plays on that a little bit, and it kind of drags it down slightly for me. But at the same time, this is kind of an exploitative action movie, so if you're gonna pick apart stuff like that, you're watching the wrong genre. But all in all, guys, I might be the only review on YouTube saying this, and I don't give a fuck if I am, but I loved this Death Wish movie. It was a huge breath of fresh air in a time where we don't get these classic, just grindhouse action movies like we used to in the 90s and even the 80s. I love that, you know, breath of fresh air and that throwback feel that it has. I love the comeback of Bruce Willis. This might not be a comeback as far as his career, but for me, for my Bruce Willis love, this definitely scratches an itch that I've had for quite a few years. And I like that Eli Roth was able to step away from a genre that, in my opinion, he was struggling with, go in a different direction, take on a known property with a classic actor, and just utilize his strengths and subdue a lot of his weaknesses in his previous films, and just hone his skills to make a kick-ass throwback action movie. And I'm looking at you. If you trust my opinion at all, go and check out Death Wish. Support this movie because it's probably going to struggle at the box office because of the timing and because of a lot of the negative reviews, and I would love to see a sequel to this down the line. So if you trust me, trust in Death Wish. I hope you'll enjoy it. So if you're a fan of gritty action movies, Bruce Willis, or even the original Death Wish, definitely give this new take on Death Wish a shot. I think you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. It is one hell of a fun ride at the theaters. And whenever it comes out on Blu-ray, baby, go out and buy it. So what did you guys think of Death Wish? Please tell me that all the reviews were wrong and you all agree with me. That would make my day. Probably unlikely, but boy can dream. What did you think of Death Wish, Bruce Willis, Eli Roth's direction, or are you a fan of the original movie? How does this compare to you to that original Charlie Bronson movie that everybody loves? Put all of your thoughts down in the comment section below, guys, and we will talk about it. If you want to check out my social media links, check the video description below for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help it grow and get exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron, as well as my new Spreadshirt store. There's 4 designs up right now for t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, water bottles, all kinds of cool stuff. Check that out, guys. I'm sure you're gonna really love these designs, and send me a picture on social media if you buy something, either Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere, so that I can put your beautiful face in a future video. So check all that out, guys, and if you want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.